2 months ago, I gave you the topping D70 Pro DAC review, which is in many ways the flagship DAC of today, having that brand new Aurora UI, digital FFT and view meters, which might appeal to some of you. It was highly technical, very resolving sounding, it was clean sounding, but it was a little bit too flat and linear sounding for my taste, and combine it with an A70 Pro preamp headphone amplifier that had very similar traits, and you are getting basically a highly technical setup that isn't trying to beautify or color your music in any way. Today I'm going to review a follow-up DAC which is called D70 OCTO, which has a very similar feature set, but it sounds quite differently, also dropping its price from $699 to $599, so let's check it out. It looks identical to D70 Pro and A70 Pro, having the same CNC machined aluminum case with a big colorful display to its left and also a volume wheel to its right. It has the same metallic fit, which I personally like very much. You won't find mechanical switches, buttons, or anything really, making it look sleek and classy. Moving on to controls, it again feels like deja vu, having just a volume wheel which acts as a standby button and menu navigator. You have 3 touch buttons and a colorful display to its left. Taking a glance on its back panel, you'll find coaxial, optical, USB Type-B and AC digital inputs, including a Bluetooth antenna socket. It offers a pair of XLR and RCA outputs, which can offer you a variable or fixed voltage output. Under its hood is where things are getting considerably more interesting. First of all, Topping swapped a single ES9039S Pro DAC chip on D70 Pro with 8 DAC chips of Cirrus Logic. Those are CS43198. So when we are paralleling 2 units working in mono mode, you are trying to squeeze the absolute best performance that chip is capable of, and also you are trying to increase channel separation, and I'm pretty sure that will have a beneficial effect on the soundstage imaging. This is the very first Octo DAC that I'm testing around here, and I'm very excited about that. If you care about the measurements of a DAC, then you should know that it has the highest channel separation that I have seen on any DAC of 149 dB, and that is absolutely crazy. That surely will have an impact on the soundstage, especially when listening via open back headphones. Topping removed those transistor and valve sound modes found on D70 Pro, but please don't worry about that because D70 Octo already sounds like having a small vacuum tube inside, so don't worry about that. It also has a pretty good Bluetooth receiver supporting all those fancy codecs like LDAC, aptX HD, aptX Adaptive, so it should sound pretty good via Bluetooth as well. Everything else was borrowed from D70 Pro while dropping its price by $100, and this is everything you should know about this one, so let's hit some eardrums and let's discuss its sound performance. While I appreciate seeing some impressive measurements on DACs like very high dynamic range, very low noise floor, very high channel separation, the final exam that a DAC should pass would be always a listening test. That's exactly what I'm doing. In recent years, I observed that Topping went with a very serious approach to music reproduction, sounding very clean, highly resolving, highly technical, dropping that noise floor into the abyss, while never trying to color the sound in any way. The problem is when you take away all the contrast from a picture, all the juicy stuff from music, you are left with a highly technical sound that isn't trying to convey the music or the mood of the music that you are listening. The sound of those units will feel right and wrong at the same time. Your mind tells you that everything is clear, is highly detailed, is very linear sounding, so everything is right, but your soul is telling you that this is not how music should sound. And these are basically one of the reasons why I didn't review all Topping made DACs and amplifiers, because except for different cases, different colors, different power ratings, they sounded more or less the same to me. 2 years ago, I tried a very different sounding Topping DAC, and that was D30 Pro, and together with A30 Pro, they were making me dance around my loudspeakers and just see the beautiful side of music, trying to add more music to my playlist. Those were, you could call them musical sounding in a way. D70 OCTO feels like a spiritual successor to D30 Pro. It feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels like eating a new dish from a place that you were visiting basically for 4 years. It's very different sounding and it's very similar sounding at the same time. While this is not an art wow DAC, this is not a very romantic, warm or smooth sounding unit, it feels that way when comparing this one with the D70 Pro. It costs less, but in my opinion it does a better justice to music lovers all around. It adds a little bit of saturation and fullness, especially in the mid-bass and mid-range, something that D70 Pro is not doing. So with something like Half Monster Vara, for example, D70 OCTO works better because the sound is fuller bodied, everything is denser sounding, there is more saturation, the sound is weightier in a way, so I can enjoy my music a little bit more. There was another positive change versus D70 Pro, especially when listening via open back headphones or some great sounding loudspeakers, and that was the imaging and the soundstage. Those two are always intertwined with the channel crosstalk, with channel separation of your amplifiers and of your DACs. And in this regard, D70 OCTO feels like an undefeated champion versus any other topic-made DAC. This is a big statement, but in terms of soundstage, imaging and holography, this is as good as it can get versus any other topic-made DAC. It is how it is. This one is quite big and holographic and deep sounding. When I was listening to Random Access Memories by Daft Punk, which cannot be compared with some big orchestras, I was surprised by how well everything was dancing all around the room. I'm pretty sure that those Rido TD 2.2 played a big role because those are still the biggest sounding loudspeakers that I have ever tried at my place, but still I cannot deny that D70 OCTO sounded deeper, bigger and just more precise in its imaging versus the D70 Pro. The Transient Response has two sides. One is impressive, one not so much. When looking at D70 Pro, this one is lightning quick, very fast sounding, it has very short decays of the notes. Some people might like that, some people might dislike that. The one thing that it suffers, it doesn't have a very strong punch in the lowest octaves. So it's not pounding hard in the bass. D70 OCTO is quite different. This one is slowing down, you have more time to appreciate your music. It's smoother sounding, so it switches gears from the 6th gear to 5th gear. Everything is happening a little bit slower on this one. On the plus side, it delivers harder punches down low, so the bass has a better slam. So it's like putting two different boxers. One is a lightweight, which is the D70 Pro. The other one is a heavyweight, so much slower, but punches much harder. So it really depends on what music you are listening to and on your age. If your blood still boils inside your veins, then D70 Pro probably will sound better with modern tunes like electronica music. And if you're past your 40s, then D70 OCTO will surely impress you a little bit more. Resolution was already very high on D70 Pro, and even without listening to D70 OCTO, I was expecting a very similar performance, and certainly it didn't disappoint. But this time around it was not about just detail retrieval and resolution, but mostly about leading edges, about contour of the notes, and these two units, they performed quite differently. D70 Pro was sharper sounding. It was sometimes sharp as a katana, so it didn't work that great with bright sounding tracks, with bright sounding headphones, something that worked nicer on the D70 OCTO. I could match this one much easier with bright sounding setups, with bright sounding tracks, something that could be a small issue on the D70 Pro. Long story short, I do believe we reached a threshold of detail retrieval and resolution, even with DACs costing below 1 kilobuck, but there is a difference how that information, how those nuances are being provided to you. D70 OCTO sounds like live music, like real representation of your music, and D70 Pro not so much. It has a longer ringing and it has a stronger sharpness. So it really depends on your taste, which will better suit your needs. The frequency response is covered fully by both units. The only difference is that D70 Pro never goes up or down from linearity, so it's dead flat always. D70 OCTO, on the other hand, it adds a little bit of fullness in the mid bass and mid range, so it's not ultra linear, but it's linear with a smidge of fullness, of warmth in a way. Its bass has authority and surely has some cojones, especially when following this up with a powerful amplifier. It has a longer decay in the bass, and that works great with bass guitars, with piano notes, with organ pipes, so it sounds slightly more natural in the bass versus D70 Pro, which is too short with those instruments and doesn't sound so natural. The mid-range is a clear winner on D70 OCTO versus D70 Pro. And if you own that A70 Pro headphone amplifier preamplifier, then I do believe D70 OCTO is a better match with that particular amplifier slash preamplifier. This one is not exactly battery smooth or warm sounding, very full-bodied, but it has traces of that kind of sound, which makes it just more interesting, more natural sounding in the mid-range. The treble is clean, it definitely goes up, and it outperforms that D30 Pro, which was rolling off some treble information. This one is more technical, so it's not rolling anything, but it definitely tones down a little bit that ringing, that energy compared to D70 Pro. So I know that subjectivity plays a big role in here, and also systematic as well, but I do believe in the long run this one will sound better with treble intensity tracks, never trying to offend the listener in any way. This whole video feels like a massive D70 Pro versus D70 OCTO comparison, so I won't repeat my words, but if you want a very different sounding topping DAC, which has a very similar feature set with the D70 Pro, then D70 OCTO is that unit for sure. I'm still scratching my head, how is this by $100 cheaper? Because 8 Cirrus Logic chips are more expensive than a single ESS Sabre silicon, and the only explanation I have is that it doesn't have an IV conversion stage, and that somehow shortened the signal path and also the bill of materials. As far as I'm concerned, I do believe this is the best sounding topping made DAC at around $600, so you might give it a try if you want. This is it. Thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like this video. My name is Sando, and I'll see you in the next video.